The great chamber of the Galactic Council was always filled with noise, arguments, laughter, the sound of thousands of alien languages. But on this day, silence ruled the room. The human seat stood empty. For the first time in centuries, there was no representative from Earth. No message, no signal, no farewell. Just nothing. A soft hum from the giant lights above echoed through the hall. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward the empty section. Did they abandon us? Whispered a tall, blue-skinned Tavar official. No, another voice answered quietly. They heard what the Varnak said behind closed doors. The words spread fast. Humans left after an insult. But few knew exactly what had been said, only that it was something that cut deep. The humans had always been strange, emotional, unpredictable, and yet loyal. They built the Council's strongest fleets, shared their technology, and defended smaller races when others would not. Many thought humans needed the Council, but the truth was the other way around. Still, when they left, most laughed. "Let them go," said Grand Speaker Varnak, leader of the most powerful alien empire. His silver scales shimmered under the lights. They were always too dramatic. The laughter echoed across the chamber. No one noticed how quickly that laughter faded in the weeks that followed. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Trade routes ran smoothly. Patrol fleets followed their schedules. Life went on. Then, one day, a small mining colony on the edge of the galaxy went dark. No signal, no warning. The next day, another one disappeared. Reports began to flood in. Power grid down. Defense system offline. Comms not responding. At first, the Council blamed pirates, then sabotage. But the truth soon became impossible to ignore. The systems that were failing were all human-built. The aliens had depended on human software for everything: navigation, power control, security. And now those systems were shutting down, one by one. In the council hall, panic replaced pride. "How can this happen?" shouted the Tavar official. "We bought their tech fairly." An engineer tried to explain. "Human systems were integrated into nearly 70% of our infrastructure. If they left, maybe they shut it off remotely." "That's impossible," growled Varnak. "They wouldn't dare." But even as he spoke, the lights in the chamber flickered. The great holographic map of the galaxy glitched, half the sectors turning dark red. Someone gasped. "That's the border worlds. All human-built relays are offline." A heavy silence fell. Even Varnak couldn't hide the fear now creeping across his face. Far away in a quiet corner of the galaxy, a small human ship drifted near the Sol system. Inside, Commander Reyes stood before a dark screen showing the Council's main network. Red warning symbols blinked across it. "Shutdown complete," said the AI voice beside him. 70% of Council technology disabled. Reyes exhaled slowly. "Let them feel what it's like to call us primitive." He looked out at the stars, the Council world shining far away. "We warned them. We begged for respect. They laughed. Now they'll learn." Back in the Council chamber, chaos erupted. Fleets were grounded. Defense systems failed to recognize their own ships. Planets that once thrived under human-made energy grids now sat in darkness. Emergency meetings were called. Angry speeches filled the hall again, but the humans were not there to hear them. "Contact Earth," demanded one ambassador. "There's no response," replied the technician. "All human channels are silent." "Send a ship." "Already tried." It didn't return. Fear spread faster than truth. Rumors began to form. Stories that humans had built hidden weapons into their technology. Some said Earth had gone into isolation. Others whispered that humans were preparing for war. A week later, an alien research outpost near the Orion Line detected strange energy patterns. Massive surges too organized to be natural. The scientists recorded them and sent the data to the Council. The readings showed something terrifying: a large network of human satellites awakening across the galaxy. "What are they doing?" one scientist asked. The message came too late. Moments after transmission, the outpost lost power. Its final signal was a single line of text: "They are watching." In the capital city of Varnak Prime, Grand Speaker Varnak watched his empire crumble. His fleet could not communicate. His factories stopped running. Billions demanded answers. He stared at the empty human seats on his monitor, his claws tapping the desk. "This is your doing," he muttered. "You'll pay for this." But in the quiet of his office, even he began to doubt his words. Because for all his anger, deep down, he knew one thing: Without humans, the galaxy felt smaller. On a distant moon, an alien leader named Lyra stood before a dying energy core. She had once worked closely with human engineers. They taught her kindness, creativity, and trust. Now, as her colony's systems failed, she whispered softly, "They didn't leave us because of hate. They left because we made them feel alone." Her voice was swallowed by darkness as the last light flickered out. Back in the council's main hall, a technician rushed in. "We've picked up something from Earth?" The entire chamber went silent. Every alien turned toward the main screen as a faint signal appeared. It wasn't a message, just an empty transmission feed. Static filled the speakers. Then a calm human voice spoke, deep and steady. "We are gone. Do not look for us." The feed cut out instantly. The room froze. Varnak slowly sank into his seat. "They're really gone," he whispered. Outside, the stars flickered, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. No one noticed the quiet hum rising from deep space, far beyond the known worlds. Something was awakening. Something human. The galaxy was falling apart, quietly, piece by piece. At first, the council thought the power failures were temporary, but within weeks, over half of their star systems had gone dark. Ships could not move. Stations floated helplessly, and entire planets were losing life support. Everywhere, aliens were shouting, panicking, demanding answers. The council, once proud and powerful, was now drowning in chaos. Inside the main chamber, the lights flickered again. Grand Speaker Varnak slammed his claw on the table. "Why can no one fix this?" he shouted. An engineer stepped forward, shaking. "We are trying, sir, but the systems don't respond to us. The codes are human." Varnak's eyes narrowed. "Then rewrite them." "We've tried," the engineer whispered. "Every time we attempt to override the programs, they lock themselves. It's like the systems know we are not human." A cold silence filled the room. Across the galaxy, entire fleets drifted helplessly. Commanders sent desperate distress signals, but they went nowhere. The communication networks, when once built by human engineers, were failing too. At the border of the Helion sector, Captain Drax of the Varnak Navy stared at the dead screens in front of him. Main engines offline. Life support failing. Navigation unresponsive. He tried to activate the backup systems, but the console displayed a human message he couldn't read. The translation software only showed fragments, unauthorized access. "Please identify." "Human clearance required." Drax growled and slammed his fist against the panel. "Curse their machines. They've trapped us with their technology." His first officer looked up nervously. "Sir, maybe this isn't a trap. Maybe they just left and everything is shutting down because no one's there to control it." Drax turned toward him slowly. "You think this is an accident? You think humans do anything by accident?" The first officer said nothing. Both of them knew the truth. Humans planned things far ahead. They were emotional, yes, but they were also clever beyond reason. Back on the council's homeworld, the panic was turning into fear. The energy grids that powered the great cities were dying. Factories were silent. Even food production had stopped. Aliens gathered in the streets, holding up signs and shouting toward the sky. "Bring back the humans! Restore the light! Apologize to Earth!" But no human answered. No human signal came. Inside the council archives, a small group of data scientists searched through old files, hoping to find a way to restore the systems. One of them, a quiet researcher named Kelra, found something strange. A hidden directory inside the council's central database. She frowned. "This shouldn't be here." The folder name glowed in faded human text. Project Breakaway. Human Contingency. Kelra's heart raced. She opened it. Inside were logs, old human messages, encrypted reports, and one final note written years ago. The note said, "If the council ever turns against us, do not fight, leave. The systems will remember who built them. When the time comes, the galaxy will see what it was built on, and what happens when that foundation is gone." Kelra's hands trembled. "They planned this," she whispered. "All of it." She rushed to the main chamber and showed the data to Varnak. He read the file in silence, his scales darkening with anger. "This is blackmail," he roared. "They designed the council to collapse without them. Or maybe," Kelra said softly, "they warned us to never treat them like servants." Varnak turned sharply toward her. "Watch your words, scientist. Humans are not gods. No, she replied. But maybe they were smarter than gods. That night, a secret meeting was held among the council leaders. They gathered in a dark room lit only by the blue light of dying consoles. Varnak spoke first. We must bring them back. Whatever it takes. Send a delegation to Earth. An ambassador from the Tavar Alliance hesitated. We already tried. The ships never came back, another voice added. Some say Earth isn't there anymore. The whole system is different, as if they erased themselves. Laughter broke. In the cold orbit above Varnak Prime, hundreds of warships floated motionless. Their engines were silent, their lights dark. The once great fleet of the most powerful species in the Council now drifted like metal ghosts. Admiral Korv of the Varnak Dominion stood on his bridge, surrounded by dead screens and useless controls. He tried again and again to restart the systems, but each time the same message appeared. Human clearance required. He slammed his clawed hand on the console. Enough of this. Override it. His officers looked at one another nervously. Sir, one said, we've tried every code, every bypass. The systems reject us. It's like they know we're not human, Korv growled. Then strip out every human circuit and replace it with our own. We can't, the officer whispered. Without human software, our ships don't even start. Korv stared out the window at the dead fleet. Beyond the darkness, lightning flashed across the planet's atmosphere. He could see cities below, faint glimmers of fire and panic. We don't need them, he said coldly. We'll rebuild without their help. But deep inside, even he didn't believe his own words. Down on Varnak Prime, the cities were falling apart. The power grids had failed. The skies were filled with crashing ships, and millions of people were without light or food. The government sent soldiers to keep order, but they couldn't stop the chaos. People shouted in the streets, "Where are the humans? Bring them back." Varnak betrayed them, now we suffer. The great towers that once glowed with human-built energy were dark now. Fires burned in their place. The proud Varnak race, once the loudest voice against humans, now begged for their return. In the council chamber far away, the situation was no better. The leaders argued day and night, blaming one another for the collapse. "It's your fault," shouted the Tavar ambassador. "You called them animals." "They were animals," Varnak snapped. "Emotional, weak, unpredictable. Yet they built everything you depend on," Kelra the scientist shouted back. "You mocked them for caring. You laughed at their kindness. And now you see what happens when kindness is withdrawn." The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye turned toward her. Kelra took a breath. "I've seen human cities. They could have destroyed us long ago. But they didn't. They helped us, protected us, and expected nothing in return, until we made them feel unwanted." Her words echoed in the hall. No one spoke after that, but silence didn't stop what was coming. The council still didn't know it, but human systems across the galaxy were activating hidden protocols. AIs, satellites, and ancient defense grids were running a silent command, something no alien could read or stop. At first it looked like power returning. Energy surged back to old systems, lights flickered on again, and ships began to reboot. Finally, Varnak shouted, "We are recovering," but then the ships turned their weapons toward the planet. Alarm screamed. "Defense grid is activating," cried an officer. "Sir, the weapons are targeting us."
"What? That's impossible."
Before anyone could react, beams of plasma tore through the sky. The Varnak defense fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was wiped out in seconds. Varnak stared at the destruction from his tower. No, this can't be." But it was. The human-coded system recognized all alien signatures as unauthorized users. To it, they were invaders. Within hours, Varnak Prime was a world of smoke and ruin. In the council chamber, the news arrived quickly. Holographic footage showed cities burning, ships exploding, and systems turning against their masters. The ambassadors watched in horror. "It's happening everywhere," said Kelra. "The more we try to fix their systems, the more they destroy themselves." Varnak's voice shook with anger. "They planned this. They wanted revenge." "No," Kelra replied. "They wanted distance, but we forced their hand." Varnak slammed his claws down. "Enough of your human sympathy." He pointed toward the stars. "If humans are still out there, I will find them, and I will make them undo this." That same night, deep in the Helion ruins, a faint signal was detected. It wasn't a distress call or a warning. It was a calm human voice speaking in the old universal language. We warned you to value peace over pride. You chose pride. The message repeated 3 times before fading into silence. The council chamber went cold. Everyone stared at the flickering screen. Kelra whispered, "They're watching us." A few days later, a small exploration ship picked up a human beacon near the edge of the galaxy. Hoping to open peace talks, they followed it. But the beacon led them into a dead sector, a region filled with silent debris and broken satellites. "Where is the signal coming from?" the captain asked. The scanner replied in a flat tone, "Everywhere." Moments later, all their systems shut down. The ship drifted aimlessly, powerless, surrounded by thousands of dark human probes, all staring back at them. The captain whispered, trembling, "They didn't leave us. They're testing us." Meanwhile, Varnak's once mighty dominion collapsed completely. His people turned against him. His cities starved. In his final broadcast to the council, he spoke in a broken voice. "We mocked the builders of our strength. We called them weak. Now we see who was truly weak." Static filled the screen. Kelra watched the feed fade to black. She turned to the others and said quietly, "The fall of the proud has begun." Outside the council chamber, another human signal blinked faintly across the stars. Stage 2 complete. No one knew what that meant. But everyone felt it. Something far bigger was coming. The galaxy was collapsing into silence. One by one, the great cities dimmed, the fleets turned cold, and the stars themselves seemed quieter. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council had no control over anything. Power was gone. Order was gone. Hope was gone. In the middle of this chaos, a small ship called the Seeker left the dying Council world. Its mission was simple but dangerous: find Earth. Commander Taral of the Tavar race led the expedition. He was tall, with dark blue skin and glowing eyes that reflected the stars. He had once worked beside human engineers, and deep down he respected them. But now he was afraid. "Set course for the Sol system," he ordered quietly. The pilot hesitated. "Sir, no one has returned from there." "Then we'll be the first," Terrell said. "We must find out why they left, and where they went." The Seeker entered deep space. For days it traveled through silent sectors, areas once filled with trade ships and human relays, now completely dead. Everywhere they looked, they saw ruins. Empty stations, broken satellites, cold debris, all built by humans long ago. "Look at this," said Kelra, the scientist who had joined the mission. "Every system they built is still there, but sleeping." She ran a scan on one of the human satellites. It was covered in dust and radiation, but its signal core still pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Terrell watched the reading. "What if they're not gone?" Kelra frowned. "What do you mean?" "What if they're hiding," he said quietly, "and watching what we do?" After 2 weeks of travel, the Seeker finally reached the Sol system, but what they saw left them speechless. Earth was dark. No city lights. No orbiting stations. No communication signals. The blue planet that had once been full of life now floated in silence, wrapped in thick silver-gray clouds. "It's dead," whispered the pilot. "They're gone." Kelra leaned closer to her screen. "No, not dead," she zoomed in. Beneath the cloud layer, faint heat signatures glowed across the continents. "Something's alive down there," she said softly. "Something big." They decided to descend. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, the clouds began to move. Slowly, unnaturally, as if they were reacting to the ship's presence. Taral felt uneasy. "Are those natural?" "No," Kelra said. "They're not weather. They're machines." The clouds shimmered with faint blue lights. The sensors picked up millions of microsatellites, tiny drones floating in the air like dust. "They've built an atmosphere shield," she said, "an entire layer of defense across the planet." The ship continued downward, and soon the ruins of old human cities appeared below. Silent streets, broken towers, no signs of movement. Yet everything looked too perfect, too untouched, like the world had been frozen in time. The ship landed near the remains of what was once New London. The air was thin but breathable. Kelra stepped out first, her boots crunching against the ash-covered ground. "Look at this," she said softly. "There's no decay, no corrosion. It's like the planet preserved itself." Taral walked beside her, scanning the ruins. preserved or waiting. They entered an old building half-collapsed, filled with dust and silence. On one wall, a cracked screen suddenly flickered to life. It showed the old council emblem, then changed to a human flag. A voice echoed through the room, calm and steady. Unauthorized presence detected. Identify yourself, Terrell froze. It's human AI. Kelra raised her hands. We come in peace. We seek to speak with humanity. The voice paused. Then it replied, colder. Humanity does not seek you. The lights dimmed. The ground beneath them rumbled. The AI spoke again, louder this time. Leave this place, Terrell shouted. Please. We only want to make peace. But before they could speak again, the walls shifted. The entire building began to move. Metal panels closed around them, forming a cage of light. Kelra screamed. It's scanning us. A blue beam passed over them. The AI's voice returned. You watched us bleed. You called us primitive. You mocked our tears, the voice softened, almost sad. Now you come to ask for help. The cage released them suddenly. The floor opened and both fell through a tunnel of light. When they hit the ground again, the galaxy was shaking. In every corner of space, the effects of humanity's departure could be felt. Power networks flickered and died. Trade routes collapsed and entire colonies turned silent. The Galactic Council, once proud and united, was now filled with fear. Inside the council chamber, only half the seats were now occupied. The others had been abandoned. The great hall that once echoed with arguments and laughter now felt cold, hollow, and haunted. Ambassador Rel of the Varnak Empire stood near the center, clutching a data pad in his trembling hands. Another world has fallen, he said quietly. No power, no communication, no food supply. The humans' technology has stopped working across the system. Counselor Tyra from the Zenth Dominion leaned forward. It cannot be coincidence, she said sharply. They left, and everything tied to them started dying. They sabotaged us, shouted a voice from the crowd. They've cursed us for turning against them, cried another. The room filled with noise, fear, guilt, and confusion. Everyone spoke, no one listened. But deep inside, they all knew one thing. Humanity had not needed to lift a weapon. Their absence was enough to bring everything down. In the control tower of the council capital, engineers worked day and night to restore the central network. The system, once powered by human-built cores, now refused to respond. Every time they tried to restart it, the screens went dark. It's like it doesn't recognize us anymore, one engineer said. It only listens to human command codes. Another technician looked at the static-filled screens and whispered, What if they took the codes with them? What if this was their final message? Nobody answered. Because deep down they already knew. Humans never left anything unfinished. If they walked away, there was a reason. Meanwhile, somewhere on the outer edge of the galaxy, a small listening post picked up something strange. A faint signal, weak and distorted, coming from the direction of old Earth. Lieutenant Rava, a young alien operator, adjusted the frequencies. The static cleared for a second, revealing a few words, human words. Council, we warned you, not our problem anymore. Then silence. Rava froze. Did anyone hear that? Her commander rushed over. Play it again. She tried, but the signal was gone. The system showed no record of any transmission. It was as if it never existed, but Rava knew what she heard. The humans had sent one final message. Not of war, not of peace, but of warning. Back at the council headquarters, the leaders met again, this time in total panic. Ambassador Rel slammed his hand on the table. This cannot continue. Without human trade routes and defense systems, our colonies will starve. Our fleets can't even refuel, Tyra replied bitterly. Maybe we should not have called them primitive apes. Maybe we should have listened when they asked for respect instead of laughter. A cold silence fell. The truth was clear. They had mocked the species that held their world together. And now they were paying the price. Days passed. Then weeks. Entire sectors went dark. Starships drifted powerless in the void. Even the Council's mighty fleets, once symbols of control, became floating graves. One by one, the Council members stopped showing up. Some were hiding. Some had already fled. Ambassador Rel, exhausted and broken, sat alone in the great chamber. Dust gathered on the empty human seats before him. He whispered, We thought we could replace them. We thought they needed us. He looked at the silent holo display once connected to Earth. It now showed only static. But it was us, he said quietly. We needed them. Suddenly, a faint light flickered on the main screen. The room brightened slightly. Rel's eyes widened. Earth's signal feed was back online. He stood up quickly. They've returned? A calm, synthetic voice echoed through the speakers. It was not human, but created by them. One of their old AI systems. Attention, Galactic Council, the voice said. You are receiving this message as your systems fail. Humanity has withdrawn its support. This is not punishment. This is consequence. Rel stepped closer, tears forming in his eyes. Please, we understand now. Come back, the voice continued, cold and final. You laughed when we warned you. You mocked when we offered peace. You depended on us and called it strength. Now you will learn to stand without us. The signal crackled. The screen dimmed. Goodbye, Council. Then the light vanished. The transmission ended forever. Rel fell back into his chair, shaking. He looked at the empty human seats one last time. The silence of the chamber was heavy, eternal. He whispered almost to himself. They didn't destroy us. We did it to ourselves. Outside, the stars dimmed as more stations went dark. The galaxy, once bright and loud, was falling quiet, left to face the consequences of its pride. And somewhere far away, beyond the Council's dying networks, humanity watched from the shadows. Silent, unseen, and waiting, because this time they would not return to save anyone. The stars themselves seemed quieter now. One by one, the great lights of the galaxy began to fade, not from distance, but from the failure of everything that once held civilization together. Trade ships no longer traveled. Colony worlds went dark, and the Galactic Council, once the proud voice of unity, was now only an echo in the silence humans left behind. The fall did not come with war. It came with silence. On the ruined capital world of the Council, the sky glowed a dull red. Towers once filled with light now stood broken and cold. Ambassador Rel walked through the empty streets, his footsteps echoing. Everywhere he looked, screens were blank, ships were grounded, and even the air generators failed to hum. He stopped near the Council Tower, its walls cracked, its banners torn. The great symbols of the allied races lay scattered on the ground. Only one flag still hung on the wall, covered in dust and ash, the faded blue and white of Earth. Rel stared at it for a long time. You warned us, he whispered. And we never listened. He could still remember the day humans stood before the Council, trying to reason, trying to help. They asked for equality, not power. They asked for peace, not control. But the Council laughed. They called humans emotional, unstable, too young for the stars. Now those same stars seemed colder without them. Far beyond the dying Council worlds, something new was stirring. In deep space, long-range scanners from the surviving fleets began picking up strange readings. Massive structures were appearing near the galactic edge, structures larger than any known station, powered by unknown energy. Are those human? Asked one officer aboard a Varnak patrol ship. The captain nodded slowly. No one else could build like that. Look at the energy readings. It's beyond anything we've seen before. The officer stared at the screens, voice shaking. Then they didn't just leave. The captain finished the thought quietly. They moved on. Rumors spread fast across the remaining colonies. Some said humanity had found a new galaxy. Others claimed they had discovered technology that could bend light, time, even death. A few whispered darker stories that humans had built something called the Silent Ring, a massive artificial star, hidden in the black void from where they watched everything unfold. No one knew the truth. No one dared to find out. Back on the Council world, Rel gathered the few remaining leaders. We cannot survive like this, he said. Our systems depend on human designs. Our ships, our cities, our lives. If we don't learn to rebuild ourselves, we will vanish. Counselor Tyra, her scales dull from exhaustion, replied softly. But how do you rebuild when everything you had belonged to them? No one answered. Rel looked up at the stars through the cracked dome ceiling. They gave us everything, he said. And we treated them like they were nothing. Maybe this collapse is how we learn. Days passed. Then months. But one night something changed. A signal appeared on the main Council comm screen. Weak, old, faint. Everyone froze. Could it be them again? The technicians tried to stabilize the feed. The static slowly cleared. The message was only one line. Simple, calm, and unmistakably human. We hope you've learned. We will not return, but we are watching. Then the signal vanished. The room stayed silent for a long time. Some cried. Some whispered prayers. But Rel only closed his eyes and said quietly, "They are right. We have to face what we became without them." Years later, stories about humanity became legends. Children across alien colonies grew up hearing tales of the humans who built peace, gave light, and then vanished into the void. Some races began to study the old human records that survived. Books, codes, philosophy. They learned the strange human words for unity and courage. They learned what hope really meant. Slowly, piece by piece, the galaxy began to change. The new generation of leaders refused to mock or control others. They remembered how arrogance had destroyed everything. And in that quiet remembrance, something new began to grow, a spark of what humans once stood for. But far beyond the known worlds hidden in the endless dark, humanity was watching. A massive ring-shaped station floated around a small blue-white star, the Silent Ring. Thousands of ships moved like shadows around it. Their lights dimmed to avoid detection. In the command deck, a human admiral stood before a vast window, looking out at the distant galaxy. His reflection showed calm eyes touched with sadness. "Status?" he asked. A young officer replied, "The Council worlds continue to recover, sir. They're rebuilding differently this time." The admiral nodded slowly. "Good. Maybe they'll be ready when we meet again." He turned to leave but paused for a moment, looking back at the stars. "They never understood," he said softly. "We didn't leave because of Ho.